Okay, take two. We had the camera set differently than I expected. Anyway, it is November the 4th on a Saturday. You may notice the woods look a little bit different. That's because I decided to stay local today. I hadn't indicated I was going to Vermont today, but if I'm being honest, one part, I didn't feel like sleeping, like getting up at the crack of dawn, partly because I have plans later on tonight with my better half. And I felt like sleeping in, and the other part, I kind of wanted to change the scenery. I was up there all last weekend, and we beat the snow by about 3 days. There's not a lot. So here's a cheat if you have to drive a ways to get to where you're going to go if you want to head out for the day. The highway traffic cameras will show you at least basically how much snow is on the ground. It's a way to cheat before you drive all the way up there and have a mishap. So there's that. Today we're going to be on the lower end of the local vigilance area and going through there. There's a side trail down here. I think I've been down once. It's gotten overgrown, so we should probably check that again. Fairly quiet in here today, despite the fact that you would think in the middle of prime deer hunting season you'd have more of a hunter presence, but I haven't really seen a lot today, which is a good thing because it gives me more of the area to myself for the purposes I have. And as far as bird hunting goes, I can do that up until the 31st, weather permitting up there, and we'll do that as I do. I haven't seen a lot of grouse up there though, so it is what it is. We're going to get going. We'll see what we run into, and there's a couple of... The Bigfoot community actually did spit out a new bit of something to talk about. Doesn't happen that often. We've got a couple of things there and then a little side comment that we'll cover, and then we'll see what comes up after that. Let's get going, see what we find. Thanks. We're back. So we are along a trail on the southern end of this forest, which this is not the most fragrant example. If you look over there and you see how thinned out it is, they've been doing some logging in here, and I'm going to add a little commentary along those lines. I might have mentioned this last year, but they're thinning out some of the forest because certain species of trees are being infected by an invasive insect of some sort. So I have mixed feelings about that. Number one, it sucks that this forest is going through that. But number two, true of all things where, right, and I'm going to do a little bit of a red state versus blue state thing here. Liberals, when it comes to this kind of thing, overreact more than they need to. If you're a Democrat, I don't mean to offend you. If you're a right-winger and you're going to go, yay, rah, rah, shut up, that's the only politics we're doing in this thing. Although I am going to say one more thing, just because I brought it up, and then we're going to not cover politics for the rest of the video. When I come up to this area, I have to drive through a little town north of the state capitol, and it's otherwise a very lovely, typical New England town. But for some reason, in recent months, I can't get through the course of like doing everyday business, like stopping off at, the Cumbies for a cup of coffee, which is a very New Englandy thing to do. If you're not going to freaking Dunkin', you might be going to Cumbies, or going to the small independent grocery store that's in the center of town to get myself, when I stop off on the way home today, I'll probably get myself a balsamic pasta salad for lunch or something like that. And in the course of doing this, there are people out there that just feel that they have the mission, if not just the right, but the mission to come up to me and randomly on the street in public and share the political views with me ever so forcefully. And lately it has been Trumpers, and I'm going to make this a very clear point so that the Trumpers don't start banging on, slapping their MAGA hats and all that down. If you were a person that was trying to give me the merits and the benefits of the worldview of Bernie Sanders on the completely opposed opposite side of it, I'm here on Saturday doing my hobby thing, and I could personally give two flying fucks what your politics are, so shut the fuck up and keep it to yourself. For those of you out there that don't really, don't go through this, let me make it again. I don't care if you're pushing religion. I don't care if you're pushing politics. I don't care if you want to chat me up about fucking baseball statistics. I'm out here minding my own business, which means you're obligated to do the same and give me that same, spot me that personal space. Because if you don't, I'm going to probably say something that's going to make you look like a freaking complete ass in front of a lot of people. I'm not going to feel bad. So shut the fuck up. Keep your politics to yourself. If you get physical with me, you're going to the hospital. That's a guarantee. And again, your spectrum of politics do not matter. You don't need to know mine. I don't care about yours. It's a Saturday. I'm not in that thought mode. You're not going to put me there. That will conclude the political related rant for this video. We will move on to things that were more likely to be covered. And again, notice before you start ranting on your own, I have attacked both sides of the political extremes. And that should probably tell you that I'm probably pretty apolitical and don't want to hear your opinion because you're wrong. You want to know why? Because you just are. Shut up. Not because you're right or wrong in general, but because you brought it up and I didn't want to really talk about it. And once I tell you once, drop it. That is the purpose of the moral of the story. Moving on. We have out there, the Bigfooting community actually got off its lazy ass and produced a new photo. I think it's a photo. I don't know if it's a video. I haven't heard it's a video. I've seen the photo. And this popped up on Facebook for me for the thing shared from Boise Bigfoot. I didn't know there was a Boise Bigfoot, but apparently there is. So I learned that much today. So there are people out there doing Bigfooting in Idaho, and I'm guessing, I mean, it's one of those big square states. You got to have some element of forest out there. You're not that far outside of like the West Coast, so there's got to be some kind of like Pacific Northwest beginnings out there. You're near the Rockies, I think, showing my mastery of high-level understanding of geography and the lack thereof. But that's just a little sparrow. I'm kind of keened into birds because even though I decided not to go bird hunting today, last week I kind of kicked myself in the ass for not getting a migratory tag up in Vermont because I did see a lot of woodcocks, which you'd need that tag to legally take. But again, I don't normally kill what I don't eat, and a woodcock is, when you like would field dress the whole thing, is probably the equivalent size of about 3 consecutive chicken McNuggets, which makes it a complete waste of time to take one anyway. And they're pretty fast, so getting one is probably easier said than done. And hunting rant. So this photo is of a Bigfoot kind of like at a 3/4 of a way, facing away from you and kind of thing. And it's one of the clearer ones out there that's come out in a while. Unfortunately, it is a fake, and I'll tell you why. Number one, the arms are simply too short. Hello, chipmunk, thinking I don't see you. Despite the kind of thinned out nature of the woods, you actually do have a fair amount of wildlife out here, including everything from a moose on down. There are bears out here, there are moose and all that. And 2 years ago, there was a mountain lion, and you can have all the people out there that say we don't have them in Connecticut. You're full of shit. Because bobcats do not have long tails with a big black dot on the end, and cougars do. And that's what I saw, so suck it. Believe me or not, I don't care. I actually have on the video the deer kill that the thing had just made. So believe me or not, I saw what I saw, and they may not be native to the region, and that's the big part of the debate that the skeptics cling to, but they're here. And the one that ended up on the local news in 2007 down in Darien, which is like smack dab in the middle of the suburbs, was hit by a car and had to have his body. And when you look at the body, that ain't no bobcat. And number one. Number two, it got here from South Dakota. You know what that proves? There's nothing geographically in the way of them getting from there to here, and they obviously do. So deal with it. They are here. Native or not the matter. Do we have a presence of them in the state? Yes, we do. Are they rare? Are they rare? Yeah, probably. But nonetheless, they are here. Connecticut, ironically, is one of the few states that will, like, make a half-assed effort to patronizingly hear you out about it, whereas, like, the ones in Massachusetts and New York are like, well, they're not here, until you point out that you know what the tracks are. I had an interesting conversation a couple years ago with a game warden in New York, and when I kind of challenged him on the nature of the tracks that he was standing right next to, and the fact he had like a Glock on his hip, I'm like, why do you have that out here if you should, like, and he's like, okay, you know what, since you saw that, yeah, act like they're here and take the proper, I'm like, yeah, no shit, genius. Because we had one come into our camp that night, and I was the one that came up on. So, again, I know what I saw. But back to the photo. Its arms are too short. So That raises the question, if it's not real, then what is it? It is either I see a strange looking bug that I'm not familiar with. And what the hell are you? Some kind of weird, you get that? It's like a weird little like bright blue and white fly who's hanging out on my finger right now. Thanks for posing. You can go. I saw like 3 of them now and I don't recognize them, so I just get curious about the nature of things out here. So I'm on the lookout for deerheads too, which if you are not familiar, they look like flying ticks. And they are actually a blood-sucking invasive insect out of China that have made their way through the temperate forest belt of Siberia, the northern end of Europe, as well as northeastern and midwestern United States and Canada. They are here and they are a nuisance, I guess. They torment the moose population, but the good news is, despite the fact they bite and suck blood and all that, they don't seem to have any known diseases last I knew. So like Lyme and all that, not so much. They just bite you and like suck your blood and then move on. The difference in telling how they are a tick versus one of them, though, is they have 6 legs and not 8, whereas a tick is an arthropod / arachnid. A deerhead is an insect and only has 6 legs. So I mean, and they're also a shitload faster than a tick. Ticks are like slow and plodding, where these things cover ground pretty quick. They look like a little spider almost with 6 legs. So what is it? Is it a suit or is it AI? Because the problem with these people that are pushing like all these, I mean, even though they're clearer than some of the blurry shit that's out there, we have a comment about that coming up too, by the way. The fact of the matter is, I tend to lean towards suit. Here's the nature of where we are. It's kind of like a mix of scrubby forest and the iconic Connecticut stone walls that mark our forest line and can be used in the right context as a navigational aid should you not totally know where you're going. Just follow the line of the fence and it can take you in quite a ways in these woods, actually. If I hadn't mentioned that before, but I suspect I have. So here we are entering into an area that is allegedly private property. There's no house out here, so I don't know who owns it, but that marker over there is actually the Connecticut-Massachusetts state line. We are actually on the state line as we approach this. Interestingly enough, there is a little bit of a trail that's directly adjacent to this allegedly private property. So I've never run into anyone out here saying anything. You got new signs too, or is that a trail marker? Well, my understanding is the trail is not on his property, so if he tries to run me off, we can talk about that with a mouthful of bear mace for him. I didn't make that threat just now. I tend to lean towards suit just because AI does make photographic and video evidence more problematic, more so photographic, because I think video-generated AI or AI-generated video is still fairly primitive in its lifespan. I don't think it's quite there yet. Photos, on the other hand, from farting around with Night Cafe myself and doing certain photorealistic, like what do you call that? An overlay, I'll call it. They come out photorealistic if you look at the face. The difference in that and a real photo is look at the hands. Because a lot of times the hands, you can have a person's face, it's like completely photorealistic until you look at the hands, which are like, you would think that they had been shoved into a deep fryer and just melted together. That's how you tell. Well, I'm talking about the logging. This is what I'm talking about. You got a lot of this going on, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. They claim it's because of an invasive insect, and it sucks, but nature of the modern world, I suppose. So yeah, we'll go down the trail a little bit and get down into deeper woods to the point where we cross the stream. And again, if this guy thinks I'm on his property on the trail, then why is the trail here? He can go fuck himself. But notice I'm not going on to what is claiming to be his property. I am respecting the property line. Which, with private land, that is a thing with me. I do. When you're dealing with witnesses, I've given that speech before. We'll cover that after I'm done with this. So it's not AI, because you look at the hands and I don't see the garbled nature of the hands that you'll see in other AI generated stuff, but it looks like a suit, and you do have enough suits on the market right now that are enough realistic that if you play with the lighting and things after the fact, you can doctor up the photo. It's the shame of it being, my point that I'm getting to is photo evidence is more and more problematic as time goes on, simply because of the technology that can basically mess with it. If you are an experienced graphic designer, you can take a photo generated something and get enough of it to make it look photorealistic. So you can't trust a clear and present photo can't really be trusted anymore, which is unfortunate, but that's the age we live in. And video coming up is going to probably get no better. I've looked at some right now. The AI related video seems to be limited to like promotional, what's like marketing videos and things like this, and corporate training stuff. And the people doing the talking are actually real people. They have these body models that they pay to do this, and they're just sitting there talking, and the AI messes with their mouth patterns to make them look like they're saying what you put into the script. And you can literally have anyone say anything. So that's a wonderful way to get a nice defamation case going. And so in the darker applications of that, but that doesn't really help the Bigfooting cause that much. Moving on to the other thing, I've noticed a lot of them popping up lately, and despite the photorealistic potentiality of the AI generated photos and all that, you still have no shortage of the blurry shit. And I call it shit because that's what it is. And it's a weird day when I find myself in total and complete agreement with the coalition, the collective coalition for critical thinking and applied narcissism in Bigfooting, run by a certain bookstore, or possibly because of COVID. I don't know if his business survived COVID, but a former bookstore owner who is a raging narcissist. And I did say that. Get over it, Steve. But I find myself in agreement with them when they critique one particular group. And for a while, they were riding these guys bad. But you know what? I can't really sympathize with these guys because they are pushing every blurry piece of shit photo and video that comes out. And I am talking about the Rocky Mountain Bigfoot something, and they do this a lot. So congratulations, boys. I add you to the column that is featuring Tom Biscardi and Todd Standing, whose material is actually much better than yours. Chris Noel, who I will ride until he gets over the fact that it's not a porcupine, you stupid, stupid little bastard. Not that I have an opinion there, but he's local, so he bugs me. And I'm sure I've missed a few. You have the whole Carpenter, Isdall, Polites little triangle of bullshit, too, and there's no shortage. If I missed anyone and you want to add them to the pile, oh yes, Mark Abel down in Colorado, who is clearly either a complete scammer and has no self-respect, or he's a complete mental patient. Take your pick. I'm not going to even bother with Matt Johnson, who at this point is freaking out of his effing mind and frankly a dangerous loon. These are the people who make the people in Bigfooting not able to have nice things because they fuck it up for everyone, and that's why the mainstream doesn't take us seriously. But with these jackasses out there doing their antics, how can they? I'm not angry with the public because the public is seeing this BS. So again, my little weekly rant, a pox on all of you for fucking it up for the rest of us who are actually looking. And for those who are asking, yes, I've actually seen one once or twice. Here's the thing, for the people that go out and claim to see one every week and yet they come back with no evidence, you're lying. You know you are. Why do I say that? Because I've been doing this, and this is going to be one of those where I break my rule and say how long I've been doing this is what gives me credibility. I don't say that it does, but just to make the point, I have been doing this since 2003. That's 20 full years. In 20 full years, I have seen one twice that I'm relatively sure. Twice in 23 years. So that's like 2 decades plus. And I've only seen one like once every 10 years. And I say that being somebody who is out in the woods. You can tell by the frequency of my videos that I'm out in the woods pretty much every single damn day. I mean, every damn week. On a slow week, maybe twice a month, but I'm out a lot. Twice in 10 years. And I cover Connecticut, Mass, Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York as a rule. If there was something compelling down in New Jersey, I'll make it down there to the Pine Barrens or someplace like that too. That's a lot of territory. Some more forested than others. But that point is worth observing. Now, what I was going to cover is kind of like a more of a reminder, but when you get into interviewing witnesses and things of this nature, and we're about to get into a really shitty part of the trail, because ATVers, what's wrong with them? This shit. They ruin the trail. If you are one and you want to disagree, fuck you, take it to another video. I'll just kill all your comments. I'm right, you're wrong, and that's how it is. And I gave a loving little photo when I was on Facebook this morning before I walked in here that conveys my thoughts on that. With a lovely sign at the trailhead of this forest patch that basically says what they're doing here is completely against the law. I hope they got caught, I hope they got fined, and I hope they took their little ATVs and left them out here in their underwear, heavily fined and about to go into the poorhouse. They deserve it. Why? Because they ruin it for everybody else. And if you don't like that opinion, that's one where I'm going to be fairly belligerent and say, fuck you, I don't care if you don't like it, I'm right, you're wrong, and you can suck my you-know-what. But okay, enough of the hostile vibe. Let's go back to, so interviewing witnesses, and I can say, just to spout some numbers, I am not the BFRO, I haven't covered thousands of cases, but I have a database of my own that has at present probably about 170 cases, and I have done probably 85% of those reports. Other ones are ones that were done by members of NESRA when I was still a member of them, when they bothered to actually do any work. Did I say that? When I say work, I don't mean, here's a side comment there, and this is more of a gripe, but when I say work, I don't mean go out camping twice a year and like make whooping sounds into the air. If you're going to run an actual research group, I'm talking about the recruiting of new members, the vetting of new members. I'm talking about the interviewing of witnesses and the actual taking in of reports. All 170 of them, which is a fair amount. The legwork of going out and doing the field investigation, if not just out actively looking like I am passively now. It's a hobby, but it's a hobby that requires some effort and some work. To pad that hobby, I'm currently in school getting a, I don't know what the degree is, but I'm getting a something degree in forestry and conservation, so I know more about managing the environment, that kind of thing. Because I have a genuine interest in that, and if I were to retire and become a forest ranger, that wouldn't kill me either, but regardless, I guess I didn't get that deep in because it gets a lot thicker in here. Getting back to witnesses, though, you have two kinds. You have the kind where it happened on public land, and you have the kind that happened on private land. And this is a hard divider of category between the two. Number one, public land, the only way you can keep other yahoos out of public land is if you make sure that you obfuscate the location and they don't know where it is, because it's public land, and if they do find it, you're out of luck. They go in there too, and there are those out there that are entitled and whine, and they don't agree with my assessment, but if you have an active investigation going in one, and you want to keep it free of external influence, you don't tell people where you're going. Or you only bring those people that trust, but you're running the risk that your little secret fishing hole is going to be manned by 30 different fishermen the next week if somebody doesn't have, loose lips sink ships kind of thing. And for the people that whine about that, my response is this. I had to learn where to look all on my own and figure that all out on my own. And you know what? So do you. I don't owe you that information. And if that bothers you that much, then I think you might be suffering from an overdose of entitlement. Yeah, I can cross over here. And that's how I feel about it. Maybe I'm old school that way, but you keep the noobs out because the noobs haven't finessed. There are a few people out there that are newer that have a bright outlook on things and the right mindset. I mean, I've met a few. The gentleman I was out with a few weeks ago is somebody of that nature. The girl who does the forest fleur seems to have a very good head on her shoulder. And these are two guys in the newer generation that actually have the right idea. And then you have the typical crop of people that got bored with ghost hunting, particularly in New England, and they just, these type then tend to rotate towards the woo. And into the woo can come up with some compelling evidence. They're full of shit. I stepped off on the wrong foot too because I got to go right left on this. Get off me. I gotta line that up right, and there you go. Public land, if they find your location, you're out of luck. That's really that simple. If it's private land, however, the person who rules the roost is the landowner. If they don't want a whole crew of people coming in there and they just want to deal with you, that's what you're stuck with. And there is a sign there that's been mangled, but I'm curious what it says. It's mangled, but it basically says state hunting is permitted. State forest hunting permitted. Something. But somebody who probably... You have to understand Connecticut is not the most hunter-friendly state. And if you have some hippie out here, they might have like chewed that up. So you can't fully read the sign, but that's what it says. Because I've been in here before when the sign wasn't chewed up. And that's a rant for another day. I think the ATVers are coming in. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fall back into the tree line and I'm going to catch them. Is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my own little activism if they come by. I'm going to sneak into the... obfuscate my presence and... The nature of this trail is one where if I kind of like find some cover, I'm going to see them long before they see me. You can hear them coming too. To finish my point before they get here, though, since they are taking their sweet time, private land, and I say this the way I do because I've seen this happen wrongly more than once. When you have a landowner who has allegedly something going on, and they say they don't want a crew of like 30 people coming charging in, they mean it. It's their land. You have to go by what they tell you. And there's one particular group out of Ohio who, other than having a reputation from circa 2012 and 13 of being a completely arrogant twat, or a group of twats, why share the blame with one person when it was actually two or three? That the rules don't apply to them. And twice in Ohio, there was a person who had made contact with somebody else originally, and the person unfortunately messed up and mentioned this to the wrong people, who then wanted to do exactly what I'm saying you don't do. She wanted to bring the whole gang in regardless of what the landowner said, and she threatened the landowner more than once with, "We're going to come in anyway if you don't let us." And she basically had them get all pissed off and close off the area to anyone, and therefore this is an investigation that never happened due to her own arrogance. And for all the bullshit she's put out there about being a being a witness advocate and all that, she breaks every rule of that dichotomy, and quite honestly is thankfully been shamed out of the community where she belongs, because she is not a person who understands law well, despite the fact she claims to have a legal career of sorts. I find that hysterical. I'm not going to delve into that too deep. I'm not going to mention names because certain people I know and she knows get whiny about that. But I could easily have my own issues with them too. I mean, actually, you know what? If you went through the entire freaking Bigfoot community, I could have issues with a lot of people, and I guess they're not coming because they suddenly aren't there. They might be on the other end. So on the other end, when I say at the other end, like 2 miles that way, there's a patch that I go into that is not. In order to get there from here, there's a windy trail that goes off that way, and it is very windy and very muddy because of these assholes in here doing this. There's a way to come in from Massachusetts where they probably don't have a sign, but they get in here on the Connecticut side and fuck everything up anyway. And may they burn in hell for that, but here we are. I'm going to keep going along the stream and see what I see anyway, just because we're here. And I do like this kind of forest where it's like piney and gets all deep. And this is the kind of thing where you could have a Bigfoot standing 2 feet over there and looking at you perfectly still, and you wouldn't see him until you trip over him. Which is why, just because you don't see or hear them doesn't mean they're not around. Because that's how easy it is for one of them to hide on us, is just to like kind of stand still and blend in. It's what deer do. Which is why the woo is bullshit when it comes to cloaking. They don't cloak. I've literally watched a deer walk into a meadow, and the color of the deer's hide versus the freaking color of the tall grass literally blends so much the deer does literally disappear into that. Not because they can cloak, but because the closeness of the matching of the colors is that close. There's nothing magical about it, and people that try to attribute that to it are people that are trying to cut off all the edges of a puzzle piece to make it match the hole that it doesn't fit otherwise. You heard me. Deal with it. But yes, I've seen more than one person. Actually, Matt Moneymaker did that a number of years back too, and it probably didn't help that he had a monkey suit in the trunk of his car. No accusation there, but that did happen early in my entry into the community. Probably, I want to say around 2004, 2005, but he was an arrogant little piece of work, much as he is now, and he got everybody kicked out of the area, and then thought he was going to be fined trespassing when he was told not to be there. If they tell you to leave, unfortunately, you've messed up and you have to leave. Now, on the opposite end of this, if you have non-private land adjacent to their land, the vetting part of the process is you show up before you talk to them. And around the edges of their property on the public land, you take a look for yourself. You don't have Bob shows you report number 5. You go out and assess it yourself first. Because then you have your own judgment that you apply against what they're showing you to give you a more skeptical eye. That is how that is done. The witness may not like it, but you will determine very quickly whether a witness is actually sincere or basically trying to take you for a walk to show you what they've manufactured or similar. And I have had like that, sort of like that, and not like that. I've had somebody send me a trail cam picture of their Labrador and try to say it was Bigfoot. So you get into stupid stuff like that too. You have to, and that's why you have to be a skeptic. I know there are people out there that don't like skeptics. And right up there on that tree, if you can see that big thing, is called a burl. And what that is, if you don't know, is basically the equivalent of a tumor for a tree. I took a picture of one for the day that was big, and I put my foot up against it to show how big these things get. That one right there is probably 2 feet by 2 feet. I'm running out of things, so I'm going to take a thinking break and see if these guys come by. Otherwise, I'm going to take a break and a segment break at that, and we'll be back in a little bit. Illegal dirt bikers. Okay, so we just have an update. So they weren't ATVers, they were dirt bikers, but they're still breaking the law. And you want to talk about how cluelessly stupid somebody is with tunnel vision. There is the trail. That's how close I was to them. I was behind that tree right there. So we're talking maximum 25 feet. They never saw me in plain view. Which illustrates, one, how tunnel vision works, or trail vision works, which is basically the same thing. And secondly, shows how easily something can hide on somebody not expecting to see something out here as well, because we're talking 20 fucking feet, folks, and they never looked. They were looking straight ahead because they were worried about spilling their bike and tearing up the trail a little bit more. And you can hear them off in the distance, and they still probably have no clue that they drove right by me, which I find very funny because I'm going to report them. Why? Because, well, read the morning Facebook post I made and figure it out. It says you're not supposed to be in here, and you're not supposed to be in here, and you did get caught because people that know you're not supposed to be in here and they catch you in here will report you. I'm gonna. I don't know if that's going to help identify who you are, but if you're packing up the shit and you're the folks that have the truck at the trailhead, I'm going to get your license plate. Oh, wait, I already have it. That's a shame. This is not normally what I do, but I was talking before about being a forest ranger and catching people doing shit they shouldn't. They drove right by me and they never knew I was there. That is rather funny to me. Now, the only way they're going to get away with this is if they kind of go back. If they came in by way of Massachusetts and that side, well, they're trespassing on that guy's land, which is another potential issue for them. But they're gone. They drove right by me. They clearly did not see me. And although I have some half-ass camo, now they're still there, but they are heading towards Mass. They didn't get very far. I know exactly where they came from. But little drama, not major drama, but little drama in the woods today. I was talking about the illegal dirt bikers, and there go two of them now. And they are busted. So, if you watch my channel and you see yourselves busted, you get to kick yourself in the ass because you drove within 25 feet of me and I was looking right at you, and I was not really behind the tree. I was leaning up against the tree in plain view. And you guys but again, if you're picking up and leaving when I get back there and you're in the pickup truck, they can run the plates from that, just so you know. I'm going to take another segment break so I can kind of see if they went that way. Sounds like they did, which is stupid because that's right by the sign that says you can't be in here. And we may have a little confrontation with them. No, they're over there still. Anyway, we will, they're basically just hanging out up there and chewing the fucking shit out of the trail for no reason. I think I'll continue filming, or I'll leave the camera at the ready. Segment break for now, but if I can catch them doing more, I will. So in reality, they fled into Massachusetts. So they don't have the truck, but I have a glimpse of them anyway, so should they come back out here and they be local or something, I can, if we should meet again, shall we say, they will be identified and properly dealt with by the law. Having said that, I'm going to take a segment break and save video, but I will add this to the video, and if they don't like it, well, you can't really do much about it without identifying yourselves and your little breach of the law, so yeah. With that, we'll be back in a bit yet again. So I had another run-in with him just now right there. And he turned around when he saw me, because now they know I'm here. And they do sound like they're retreating. And if they're retreating, they know they're in the wrong. The funny part, like my commentary just before now, if they are fleeing, they're wondering how they missed me. And they're wondering if I'm a ranger or something. So good luck with that. Happy thoughts. Guess what? Another segment break unless they come back.